BMW has given us the E30 M3, the iconic 2002, and some of the most beautiful sedans ever created. But let's be honest, not every car that rolled out of Munich was destined for design museums. Some BMWs became infamous for controversial styling choices, awkward proportions, or bold experiments that simply didn't land. Even with the recent iX3 showing BMW's commitment to electric innovation, the company's design history isn't without its questionable moments. Here are the top 9 ugliest BMWs ever made, the cars that prove even legends can stumble. BMW 3 Series Compact. Let's start with BMW's attempt to make an affordable 3 Series that ended up looking like someone took a hacksaw to a perfectly good sedan. The E36 Compact was BMW's answer to the Golf GTI, but instead of creating something sleek and sporty, they gave us what can only be described as a 3 Series that went through a traumatic growth-stunting experience. The problem wasn't just the truncated rear end, though that certainly didn't help. The proportions were all wrong, with the front overhang looking comically long compared to the stubby back end. It's like BMW took a normal car and accidentally hit compress in Photoshop. The rear window was tiny, the C-pillar was thick and ungainly, and the overall silhouette screamed budget compromise rather than ultimate driving machine. To be fair, the Compact drove better than it looked and offered BMW's excellent handling dynamics at a lower price point. But in a world where looks matter, especially for a premium brand like BMW, the Compact felt like wearing a tuxedo jacket with swim shorts. It served its purpose, but never quite felt right. BMW Z3 Coupe. The Z3 Coupe earned its nickname Clown Shoe for obvious reasons, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. BMW took their elegant Z3 Roadster and decided to add a roof that looks like it was designed by someone who'd never seen a sports car before. The result was a shooting brake that seemed to have an identity crisis. From the front, it's all Z3 charm with that long hood and classic Roadster proportions. But then your eye travels backward and hits that massive, bulbous rear section that rises like a loaf of bread. The side profile is where things get really awkward. The transition from the low, sleek front to the tall, bloated rear creates a silhouette that's more clumsy than elegant. It's functional, sure, but beautiful. Not so much. Ironically, the clown shoe has developed quite the cult following among enthusiasts who appreciate its rarity and excellent performance credentials. The M version, in particular, is now considered a future classic. Sometimes being ugly in an interesting way is better than being boring and pretty, but that doesn't make it any less polarizing to look at. BMW i3. BMW's first mass-production electric car was certainly distinctive. The i3 looked like a concept car that somehow escaped the auto show and made it to production without anyone stopping to ask, "Are we sure about this?" With its tall, narrow stance and peculiar proportions, the i3 challenged every conventional notion of what a BMW should look like. The design was polarizing from every angle. The suicide doors were cool in theory, but made the car look like a tall, narrow refrigerator when opened. The body cladding created awkward visual breaks in the surface, and the whole thing sat on comically narrow wheels that made it look like it was tiptoeing rather than driving. The interior was interesting with its sustainable materials and lounge-like atmosphere, but from the outside, it was a tough sell. To BMW's credit, the i3 was genuinely innovative with its carbon fiber construction and unique approach to urban mobility. It drove better than it looked and offered impressive efficiency. But in a brand known for sheer driving pleasure, the i3 looked more like a smart appliance than a machine designed to stir emotions. By the way, if you're enjoying this list, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments. Which BMW design do you think deserves the title of the ugliest ever? BMW 5 Series GT. The 5 Series GT was BMW's attempt to create a lifestyle vehicle that combined sedan comfort with hatchback practicality. What they actually created was an automotive identity crisis with the proportional elegance of a pregnant whale. This car couldn't decide if it wanted to be a sedan, a wagon, or an SUV, so it chose to be all three badly. The roofline was the main culprit. It rose like a mountain peak behind the rear passengers, creating a profile that looked more like a minivan than a BMW. The rear end was particularly awkward, with a complex arrangement of hatches and windows that seemed designed by committee. When viewed from the side, the GT looked like someone had inflated a normal 5 Series with a bicycle pump until it burst at the seams. Inside the GT was actually quite impressive, with excellent rear seat space and a versatile cargo area. It drove well too, maintaining BMW's dynamic standards, despite its ungainly appearance. But in the image-conscious luxury car world, looking like a tall station wagon doesn't help your cause, no matter how practical you might be. BMW 2 Series. Active tourer BMW building a front-wheel drive minivan was like watching a master chef decide to open a fast food restaurant. Technically possible, but it felt fundamentally wrong. The 2 Series Active Tourer represented BMW's venture into the compact MPV segment, and the result was about as un-BMW as you could get while still wearing the roundel. The proportions were all wrong for a BMW. Instead of the long hood and sporty stance we expect, the Active Tourer was tall, upright, and practical in the most mundane way possible. It looked like a Volkswagen Touran that someone had accidentally badged as a BMW. The front end tried to maintain some BMW design cues with the kidney grille, but it felt forced, like putting racing stripes on a refrigerator. The real tragedy was that the Active Tourer was actually quite good at what it was designed to do. It offered excellent space efficiency, decent driving dynamics for its class, and typical BMW build quality. But for a brand built on the promise of driving pleasure, creating what was essentially a soccer mom wagon felt like a betrayal of everything BMW stood for. BMW X6. The original X6 was BMW's attempt to create a sports activity coupe, which sounds like marketing speak for "we took a perfectly functional SUV and made it less practical for no good reason." The X6 pioneered the coupe SUV segment, but just because you're first doesn't mean you're prettiest. The X6's profile was its biggest issue. It looked like someone had sat on a regular X5 and compressed it vertically. The roofline sloped dramatically, creating a silhouette that was neither elegantly coupe-like nor imposingly SUV-like. Instead, it occupied an awkward middle ground that pleased no one. The rear end was particularly unflattering, with tiny windows and a profile that suggested the car was perpetually slouching. The automotive press was brutal in their assessment, with many questioning why anyone would want an SUV with less cargo space and worse visibility. Yet the X6 found its audience and spawned countless imitators. Sometimes being first to market trumps being first in beauty, but that doesn't make the original X6 any easier on the eyes. BMW 7 Series. Chris Bangle's controversial redesign of the 7 Series was BMW's most polarizing design decision of the 2000s. The E65 abandoned decades of BMW design evolution in favor of sharp creases, flame surfacing, and what became infamously known as the Bangle butt, a trunk design that looked like someone had carved it with a chainsaw rather than sculpted it with traditional automotive elegance. The rear end was the most controversial element, featuring a high-deck lid with sharp angles that completely departed from BMW's traditional three-box sedan design. The side profile was nearly as challenging, with complex character lines and surface treatments that made the car look busy rather than sophisticated. It was designed for design's sake, without the restraint that had made previous BMWs timeless. The E65 was technically advanced and drove exceptionally well, offering the comfort and performance expected from BMW's flagship. But in the luxury car world, where conservative elegance typically reigns supreme, the radical styling alienated many traditional BMW customers. Even today, the E65 remains divisive. Some see it as boldly ahead of its time, while others view it as a cautionary tale about fixing something that wasn't broken. BMW XM, BMW's flagship SUV, was supposed to be the ultimate expression of luxury and performance, but instead, it became the ultimate expression of too much of everything. The XM looks like BMW's designers were given unlimited creative freedom and absolutely no adult supervision. Every surface has been creased, vented, or adorned with some kind of aggressive styling element. The front end is dominated by BMW's new oversized kidney grills, which on the XM reached truly cartoonish proportions. Combined with split headlights and aggressive air intakes, The XM's face looks more like a transformer than a luxury vehicle. The side profile is equally busy, with multiple character lines, fake vents, and contrasting trim pieces that create visual chaos rather than elegant sophistication. The XM is undoubtedly impressive from a performance standpoint, with its hybrid powertrain producing massive power figures. But for a vehicle costing well over $100,000, looking like a concept car that escaped before the designers were finished, isn't exactly what buyers expect. Sometimes more really is less, and the XM proves that point emphatically. BMW iX. Taking the top spot is BMW's flagship electric SUV, the iX, a car that looks like BMW's designers were asked to create the most polarizing vehicle possible and succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The iX features BMW's new oversized kidney grille taken to its absolute extreme, creating a front end that looks more like a beaver than a luxury vehicle. The proportions are equally challenging. The iX is tall, wide, and imposing, but not in a way that suggests elegance or sophistication. Instead, it looks like a large appliance that someone accidentally put wheels on. The flush door handles and smooth surfaces give it a concept car appearance, but not in a good way. More like a concept that should have stayed in the design studio. The real tragedy is that the iX is genuinely impressive underneath its controversial skin. It offers excellent electric range, cutting-edge technology, and surprisingly good driving dynamics for such a large vehicle. But in a world where Tesla has shown that electric vehicles can be beautiful, the iX feels like BMW chose to be different rather than better. Even though these BMWs might not win any beauty contests, they're still fascinating pieces of automotive history that show a company willing to take risks and push boundaries. If you enjoyed this countdown of automotive awkwardness, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more car content, and let me know in the comments which BMW design you think deserves the crown for ugliest ever made.